you guys ever heard of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? BJJ, right? You've heard it, right? Ultimate Fighting Championship. Seen the guys sometimes on the ground fighting and stuff, kind of gain possession or position. Well, that's what my topic is about. My topic is about BJJ, okay? Basically, have you ever considered yourself in a vulnerable position where, God forbid, if you're ever into a fight, or if you ever got into an altercation with someone, and the person had dominant position on you, saying like they were more stronger and powerful and stuff. Well, BJJ is basically kind of the opposite. BJJ was meant for people that were not that strong, okay, and don't really have the muscle or the advantage over anyone else and stuff. But BJJ is about technique, and it's also about gaining leverage over your opponent. Okay, that's what BJJ is all about. So if any of you guys ever seen Ultimate Fighting Championship, a lot of times people, when they go on the ground, many people know what boxing is. When they see boxing, they see a lot of boxers. They know what they have a familiar idea of what boxing is, but once the opponent themselves or the fighters are on the ground, that's when a lot of people kind of tend to say, well, I don't know what they're doing. So they're kind of lost at it. So basically what I want to do is basically kind of give the history, a little history about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, how it came about. Also, not to take anything away from any other type of martial art or self-defense, but Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has been proven close to 100 years that it's effective today. Okay, so other martial arts, as far as like Krav Maga, you have Kempo, you also have Aikido, Hapkido. Those are all great techniques, and they were respected in their time. But now BJJ is kind of like the ultimate self-defense. Whether you're on your feet or on the ground, it's still effective. People don't realize that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu came out of Judo. So Judo was actually where their foundation came from. From that point on, Jiu-Jitsu was actually, again, like I said before, was actually founded off of Judo by a gentleman by the name of Jigoro Kano from Japan. And then he had a protege, sort of like, how many of you guys ever heard of BJ Penn? Everyone ever heard of BJ Penn? Okay, he was one of the earlier founders, well, one of the earlier fighters of Ultimate Fighting. Well, they called him the prodigy. And the reason why is because as a white belt, he was competing with black belt level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighters, and he was winning. That's why they call him the prodigy. Because it's unheard of to ever have a white belt ever defeat a black belt in their style. But BJ Penn himself was known to be the prodigy because it was very unheard of a white belt ever defeating a black belt. Okay, so in this time era, the prodigy at that time was a gentleman by the name of Mitsuyo Mada, and he was considered a prodigy in Judo. Well, when he used to compete in these Judo competitions, he used to compete against very good Judo competitors, but what happened was that every time they came to the ground, he was always being defeated. Never knew how to get out of situations. So, to make a long story short, what he basically did was, he started learning Jiu-Jitsu. Okay, Japan is actually the founder of Jiu-Jitsu. Now, the way that he came over to Brazil was that he himself, Mr. Mata, or they call him professors, Professor Mata went to Brazil after he started competing in world champions as far as judo competitions. But he started gaining his knowledge with Jiu-Jitsu and implementing Judo and Jiu-Jitsu together. So at that point in time, he went to Brazil, he resided in Brazil. He came across a student by the name of Carlos Gracie. Anyone ever heard of the Gracie family? You've heard of the Gracie family, right? Okay. Well, Gracie family are known to be the founders of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They're the ones that discovered Brazil. They basically took the art and took it to a different level. Well, Carlos Gracie was a student of Professor Mata at the time, and after years of training with him, what he basically started doing was himself, his brothers, they basically started doing Gracie challenges. So what they did was they took the art of Jiu-Jitsu, they started challenging any fighter of any style in the world, and they were winning. Okay, they also challenged heavyweight fighters back then at that time, and a lot of the heavyweight fighters were afraid to compete against against the Gracie family. The only reason why is because, obviously, if you don't know of a style or an art, and you're competing against someone that's a different style, you know, they may or may not have an advantage over you. Okay, it might work either way. So if I'm a boxer and I'm going up against a grappler, you know, I might defeat him on my feet, but if he gets a hold of me, then basically we're going to his world, which is basically on the ground. Because you got to remember, grappling, jiu-jitsu is basically ground grappling. It also has judo in it as well, but people consider it more grappling on the ground than they do on their feet. Because you don't really see too many Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighters stay on their feet for a long period of time. From that point on, and I just want to reiterate that I don't take anything away from the style of jiu-jitsu, or I should say any other type of self-defense. I basically, what I do is I just try to show and try to prove that Brazilian jiu-jitsu is one of the best, if not the best, martial arts or self-defense in the world. And again, it has close to 100 years of being proven to be the best in the world. Basically, if you're ever interested in going to a school or looking into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, what I recommend is basically first, always sit in class and watch the instructor. You may not know what the instructor is saying at the time to his class, but just kind of see how the students are accepting his teachings and how well they're performing it during their training. Two, always make sure that the school is clean. Gotta have a clean environment. Because you're in contact all the time, so you're sweating, you're rolling all the time and stuff. So there's a tendency of maybe passing on stuff to people, but my major concern is if the school is really dirty and the students are like in their gi, it's called kimonos or gis, and it doesn't look like they're clean, that's a school you gotta have to watch out for. It's not the cleanest school in the world. Also, ask the instructor of the school as far as do they get free lessons, one free lesson. A lot of times I always tell people do the free lesson first. Don't just jump into a school, because many schools claim that they're Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu qualified or their instructors have been trained. But the way that you can tell if someone's been trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is it's a lineage. So for example, if you have an instructor that was trained by a Gracie family member, they have a lineage. So their lineage goes all the way as far as back as Carlos Helio, the founders of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So if they have a lineage, if that teacher has a lineage behind them, then they're considered to be qualified. Also, you know, you have the internet, you can always check them out, you know, check their records, make sure they're not some type of felon or anything like that, you know, so that's something you have to look into. And finally, you know, it should be a friendly environment. Basically, if you go to a school, for example, we try to promote and try to encourage women to participate in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. A lot of times when women see men, you know, training, they become very intimidated, okay? And we always encourage women not to be intimidated by that, okay? Because most of the time, it actually builds up confidence, especially when you have to deal with the opposite. And, you know, definitely, because I know for sure, like we have students in our school that train, females that train and stuff, and trust me, the 5 foot, 100-pound female can put a whipping on somebody. So, you know, and so don't ever feel discouraged by that. You know, anyone else as far as like your height, weight, and stuff is concerned, stuff, it shouldn't matter, because again, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is about technique. It's not necessarily about muscling through something. It's about technique, leverage. It's what I call it's a human chess match. Anybody play chess here? Chess. Okay, so you know how chess is, right? What do? You strategize, you sit down, you pick your opponent apart, right? Well, that's what BJJ is all about. It's about picking your opponent apart. What advantages do you have over your opponent in certain position that you're at? Thank you very much, folks. I greatly appreciate the time. Again, these guys are for you. Thank you so much, and have a great day, guys.
You too.